So, in this section, I'm going to talk about concept and limiting beliefs and structure altogether. It's a little hard to tease those apart because the concept is this idea of an articulation or a visualization of how we're going to manifest our purpose and principles. And in this case, I'm going to show you an image from BII Fund 1, which was sort of declaring we are a place based impact investing fund with a focus on economic justice. That doesn't seem so innovative right now, but back when we were first doing it, there was no such thing. There wasn't a focus in impact investing on place-based work, and there wasn't a focus on economic or racial justice through investing. And so putting those three things together, we said place-based, three legs of the stool, place-based, integrated capital to close the racial wealth divide. That clear concept anchored our work. And so you might have a visualization to do it, but some way of saying what's at the core of what we're trying to do. When it comes to limiting beliefs, we're dealing with these ongoing default ways of looking at the world that we're not maybe even aware of. Like I said, they happen all along the way. They're here on the chaotic path because right when you're trying to conceptualize your response, right, you know what the problem is that you want to solve. You've declared your investment thesis. You have a set of values. And now you have this enormous challenge of trying to design something that can deliver on that goal. And that's where these limiting beliefs might hamper you. They might get in your way. So just naming them here, and I'll give you an example in a moment. But throughout the journey, you're going to find yourself having to challenge some of the beliefs that you may have inherited from culture. And we'll take a look at how to tease those apart and put something else in their place. In the structure, this is how we're going to organize and resource ourselves to get work done in the constraint of the regulatory system that we are in, by which I mean community-based investment funds are regulated offerings by the Securities and Exchange Commission. You can't just go out and ask your neighbor to give you money and give it to someone else. That's a whole structure that you have to build in order to make that happen. So for BII, we chose what's called a charitable loan fund structure. And this is something tricky. It wasn't something people were familiar with. And I'm going to share my limiting belief story for you right now. When we said we wanted to create a fund that was going to invest locally in entrepreneurs of color, and we went to our lawyers and we said we'd like to structure this thing, our lawyer said, great, you want to do a private equity fund. And we're like, no, we don't think we want to do a private equity fund. They're like, oh, you want to do a private debt fund. And either way, they were talking about a fund that was structured for what's called accredited investors, people who are higher net worth, wealthy investors only. And we said, no, we want to do a fund that non-accredited investors can invest in, community investors. And they're like, oh, you really don't want to do that. They had a limiting belief. And they were not aware, the particular lawyers we went to the first time, they were actually not aware of something that we had heard about called a charitable loan fund that allows you to raise debt capital and philanthropic capital from both accredited investors and non-accredited investors, deploy integrated capital, every type of capital that we talked about, and to do it as a 501c3, as a nonprofit activity. We felt for what we were trying to do that was the right structure, but we had to go find some lawyers who specialized in that, as well as other people who ran funds like that, and come back to our lawyers and say, there's got to be another way to do this. Have you heard about this charitable loan fund exemption? So there are going to be limiting beliefs throughout the system. In this case, you might bump up against it with professionals who are guiding you because some of this work that we're doing in community investing is unfamiliar. And that's where making sure you're talking with other community-based investors and using some of the resources that I'll point you to will help you structure things in a way that fit your thesis. In our case, this charitable loan fund thesis, as we were forming a 501c3, a nonprofit, we decided to use something called being a supporting organization for named supported organizations. That means there are 3 nonprofit organizations who are the majority governance of our organization. So it's the Center for Economic Democracy, City Life Vita Urbana, and RSF Social Finance. And we had various reasons to want to partner with each of these 3 organizations. They essentially run our organization, and we are an extension of their mission by bringing impact investing into the work that they are connected to. That's part of their mission. So that's how we formed our structure. This is the stuff that gets pretty messy. Fortunately, there's another module with an incredible lawyer, the lawyer that we went to guide us toward the Charitable Loan Fund, Brian Becken from Cutting Edge Capital. And to go deep into the bowels of regulatory life, you can watch Brian's session on community-based investing structures.